Hey, everybody. Great Wednesday, and I'm really excited to hold this conversation, really, this interview with Berkeley District 3 Council member and friend Ben Bartlett. Ben, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you, Zinni?
I'm great, man. I'm really excited. This is something else. Hey, without any further ado, tell my viewers, first of all, about this idea of essentially blockchain microbond financing, how it started, and how it's working, and as much as you can tell us, and we'll go from there. I'm really excited about this.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, first off, thank you for having me. Very excited to share with you and to just be involved with communicating what I really believe is a new vision of capital and economic empowerment. The microbonds, as we call them, that's the nickname that someone came up with, and we love it. The microbonds are essentially meant to solve two things. Right now, all societies are faced with one, an infrastructure deficit. That means there's no money to pay for new roads, new bridges, or even for housing. And then also no money to transition into the new economy, which is not polluting, there's carbon, and vehicles, things like that. Right? It's all super expensive, and we live in a low-tax environment where the wealthy are just not taxed that much, so it's really difficult to pay for it. At the same time, under the side of that person, you have this extreme wealth inequality happening around the world. You have in this country almost half of at low-income status. And so when you have that many poor people growing, where the next generation is supposed to be zero assets in nation, when you have this kind of growth in poverty coinciding with this thirst of public infrastructure finance ability, you need some new ideas. And so we were confronted with the fact that we were going to have a tough time here fulfilling our duties to help people and to pay for things that involve tax equity finance. And that's a complicated term, but essentially, rich companies are taxed, and those taxes can be deferred by investing in things that serve the community, whether they're solar panels, affordable housing, things like that. So we went to the drawing board in our local community here, because in Berkeley, we are possessed with a great number of really talented doing things. And, this blockchain technology kept coming up as a mechanism for us to a new form of public finance. And as we dug into it, we talked to the extended community for about a year, crafted we believe to be a groundbreaking piece of legislation. And I can get more into it. I'm rambling. Please.
Oh, you're just fine. You're doing just fine. We're just listening. You're doing excellent.
Okay, great. So essentially, what we learned is that when it comes to funding things for the public and doing large financial outlays and investments, you have layers and layers of bureaucracy and entrenched interest that add to the cost. And also because these same operators operate at scale, they tend to only invest in large scale things for the returns are great that they can justify their work. So the technology, and as all technology does, is meant to serve the human need for efficiency. And so blockchain represents it's a big ledger. That's another conversation, but it's a complicated way of saying it's a way to distribute information to lots of people at once, real-time notification. And essentially, as a ledger, it's instant notification and instant recording of movement of things for capital. So you can issue a bond or a security or a title to property or anything instantly and seamlessly. So therefore, that actually could save, in terms of municipal bond, could save as much as that. And then, so that solves one element. So this year, you can do more because it's cost less. And then second and moving the other element, because the transaction friction elements and moving, one bit of currency or one bit of a bond or one bit of anything via this method, the friction is so minimal that the transaction fee is like 0.0000035 cents. So that enables us to offer something for cheap. So you can sell a bond to someone, a bond, security, a note, whatever, for like 5 cents. We paid $25 just because it felt good. It felt good and cheap randomly, but you can actually issue these microbonds for $1. And so that issue, what that does, allows ordinary people, low-income people in particular, to buy security, to buy a bond. I do a project in their community or anywhere that earns them money. So you move this insurance wealth disparity, you move the needle on that. You give low-income people the opportunity to move from consumers of debt, credit cards and so else, into investors in debt. And that's monstrous. You really talk about these baby bonds. Cory Booker has a plan to do baby bonds. So when you're born, you get a bond, and that grows your whole life. That's kind of what they're recognizing the need to create wealth building mechanisms for people because they're disappearing. So that's the goal here. Like the bonds are micro because they're very small, and they're also can be targeted for very small projects. So you can fund one public theater or one solar panel array or one infrastructure line or scaled up underground public Wi-Fi, a dam, a road, a bridge. It's really amazing. And by the way, since we published that legislation, the microbond legislation, that model has now been adopted and implemented around the world and this country.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah, Credit Suisse just did bonds on the blockchain. Australia did a $7 billion offering. A couple of unnamed corporations that I can't say exactly what to say are about to do it as well. Ohio, they're all exploring it right now. California itself is looking at it. So this is a necessary mechanism to address the public funding shortfall that everywhere people are feeling.
This is
and since the crash in 2007, the capital flows in this kind of world have been really strict. The money is not flowing, and that's what's happening here. So we need two ways to get the capital flowing, and then it's going to flow to the consumption of security, and no one can afford it because it's so expensive. This is one way.
Help those, like, for example, my mom, who aren't familiar with blockchain. How do you describe to constituents what blockchain is from your point of view?
So what is blockchain is essentially, what like a new version of email.
Yeah, that's good.
Look at it as a shared email. It's just a network. It's a database. So imagine an email that goes out to people at the same time, and everyone can see what's in it at the same time. And every time someone writes back an email, everyone sees it. That's all it is. But the way the email is written, it's written in a way that can't be changed. So it becomes a web. And that is the revolution. Real-time notification with unchangingness. And then third, of course, guarantee. You can see the email and communication everyone's getting at once. You can see the whole history of it, and that becomes a mechanism for trust. And so all this is a fancy way of saying what used to take dozens of people and lots of time, lawsuits, can now just be cured right away. when a large bank, this is what JP Morgan said, because JP Morgan is also issuing its own mechanism to pay its clients and to settle accounts via its own blockchain. The CEO gave a good point. Is listen, when this one company, the shipping company, has to settle up, it calls its bank, and you call that bank and say, "Did you get this? Did you get that? Did you get the money? Is it there? Is it there? Did you get it? Yeah." And they call you, and they call you back, and it takes days. But now, no one is calling it because we all at the same time receive the notification together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's instant. So this is transformative technology for all sections of the economy, from transportation to movement of goods, to especially property and title, and of course the movement of money.
We're on with Berkeley District 3 Councilmember Ben Bartlett. So it sounds like, just from what I've read also, that this is not only spreading like wildfire, but you have the input and the assistance of the entire city of Berkeley, and they're really behind this. Is that right?
Well, I wouldn't say the entire city of Berkeley, but we passed the measure unanimously. But that was after much education. Because it's a radical idea to sort of go your own way when you've been, when the system as it is has been functioning for so long.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the town that always tries new things. We created recycling here. We created pace of.
Hey, Ben, Councilmember, you can even argue that Berkeley created the atomic bomb.
Well, is that true?
Yeah, technically, yeah. J. Robert Oppenheimer, just up the hill, Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory.
But maybe now we can leverage it. It's super excited about this, and I didn't realize that. We didn't realize it when we crafted it. The mayor kind of announced we needed some help, and they came out of the woodwork. And it turns out that the leaders of the industry are all here in Berkeley, so they were super excited about it. And they because they're Berkeley, they have that socialistic spirit
Mm-hmm.
and the human interest,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why we're doing this. We're doing this to help alleviate poverty and to help save the environment. So, and these, of course, are endemic to my district. It's important to note that everything my office works on are things that start in my district, but then are represented by the country at large. My district is the precise mirror image of America. It has wealth disparities, has the similar age ranges, racial dynamics, although we're losing our African population, racial age, the same health disparities, pollution, infrastructure issues, and access here. So the whole the micro, the macro, and has an upside below. That doesn't phase out here. So anytime we can solve for something here in this little tiny section of one house, it can present a tool for the country.
Where are we, or really you? Where is Berkeley? Where is this now? What stage is this incredible new way of financing at? What do you have to do next?
So now the city staff, the finance department, these people, they're going to create what's called a request date. We'd like you to come in and we'd like someone to come here and issue a small offering for the community and with to fund a local fire truck. What the issues should be accessible, people locally, and have marketability and you should have experience or the ability to partners can be distributed in different ways. The increments of payment can be done on an hourly basis, even. You'll say that the technology is so flexible and fast and cheap that it can really do anything. And so, and what people often talk about for the proceeds that come in, when you own a bond, you receive monies periodically, right? You get paid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so those payments, particularly if they're small, which they should be if it's a microbond, right? They're going to be small.
Right.
They can come into a local currency, like a local digital, and be spent at the local stores and nonprofits and or the awards to the kids doing bees or for homeless people to go buy food, not buy cigarettes. Right? You can do all of that, and it's amazing. Syracuse actually has been in touch with the local digital currency. They right now they're in mid-launch as we speak of a cryptography-based, blockchain-based local digital currency, and its purpose is interesting. The Syracuse coin is meant to help low-income people pay for rent. So it's a rent voucher kind of. And so I'm really curious to see how that plays out with this, and maybe we can incorporate that. And so that's the thing. It's you can do anything with this technology. So I can't wait for all the different vendors to pop up and present their ideas, and that'll be fun to see which one gets the contract. It'll be awesome.
And one with Berkeley Councilmember Ben Bartlett, District 3. Hey, I'm curious, have you had any outreach from those constituents that are interested in public banking? Because this seems like a perfect, fit for what they might be, interested in.
Oh yeah. I mean, since we published this last year, I've gotten calls from United Nations, from 8 major Wall Street banks, 2 of which have already released one has released their own coin, one's about to. Getting calls from a number of states. Yeah, the banks are really into it. They're curious. They want to, because the banks are heavily invested in what they call financial technology, ways to kind of capture the change. They like the way email has done a big number through the communication industry, and the internet has done a big number through the magazine and newspaper industry. Right? Mm-hmm. So banks are like the magazines and newspapers of 1988. They're on the cusp of getting chopped down by technology, because you don't really need the banks that much. If you go into a bank, you can see it. Mm-hmm. You see all these stuff kind of hanging around. It's not the old days where they're big banking people.
That's a great point.
They're like counter workers,
right?
Because all the banks on your phone now, your app, or at the machine, or logging in. So the banks the banks don't want to be in the investment of history like the paper industry is. So they're actively seeking to partner up and make actions and evolve with your technology. So they all call because they all want to see what's going on with it. And I'm sure that they're gonna get this contract and what they do with it, and they might even partner with them because.
Out of curiosity, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't want to interrupt you. Go ahead. You were going to say something.
This is
and those who might be venture capitalists, because I say I'm thinking of Tim Draper, who last year was going to invest in a firm that was called, I believe, Tetra or something in that order. But this is received overall blockchain as fintech has received a great deal of attention.
I have spoken. I've spoken at conferences around the world. Numerous numerous, kind of articulating the vision that I put forth in my paper. I wrote a paper based on this called The Smart Task. And I don't know, dozens of times in multiple venues here and abroad. And then yeah, they're all in it. They're all.
This is something else.
They're all. I mean, there are. You can't give up with it. It's a dynamic flourishing of new. Just, you there?
I'm here, still here.
The venture capitalists and their expertise and very similar to Wall Street. They have a network of a few large venture capital groups, and so it's really difficult to get in their office and to get your project going. Extraordinarily difficult. But what the blockchain technology allowed people to do, it allowed them to raise their own money. So the majority of these companies that are popping up, they raised own money. They did what's called initial coin-up or security funding, crowdfunding to raise money for their project. And now after the height of that was over a year and a half ago or so, 2 years, I don't know. Now, at this point, they've all been building, and now they're coming out to market. So the great business had the democratization of capital. So they decided to create their own money, and that was Bitcoin, which started it all, which is a protocol. It's basically just a mechanism.
I still keep in touch with him to this day. I was actually trying to get a certain person we both know a job, but I think it's something that he would love to be involved in and providing the technical advice or assistance he can. In terms of the effort to end homelessness, and how did we get here? Because this really, arguably catalyzed
$140 million to pay for homeless services and homeless housing. We spend, I forget our budget, we have an enormous budget homelessness in the county that we sit in.
My God.
In the last 2 years.
My God.
So we are drowning in this. So when I talk about the economy it's huge. It's a huge problem that it consumes us, and we're trying new things. We made a navigation center. This is a place where it's working really well. We have youth homelessness. And it's going to be in Oakland. And so it goes on. Particularly, it's incensed by the lack of resources put out by the federal government and the state to deal with this. And the reason I ran for office in the first place is because my own mother, who's a senior citizen, and she and her neighbors and friends, this was 14 years in senior housing. And that is not the case. So that really all we've done. We focus on all the ways we can help alleviate situations like that, because again, it is microcosmic, happening on a larger level. That is also also out there that people reference and use. Mark, it's a media I wrote outlining my vision for the technology, and both in the necessity and invest descriptions to do called the smart. Ben Bartlett out there. Ben Bartlett. He's also a different skill and knew really well. To a group of
Sounds like you're hearing yourself twice back there. City of Berkeley web